Welcome to another episode of Acts of the Blood God, an independent RPG podcast. I'm your host, Kat Bailey. Joining me, as always, my lovely co-host, Nadia Oxford.
Another, because we already started once and it all had to kind of come down so we could put it all back up again. And Eric is not here this week.
Yeah.
It is evident.
That wasn't a pure nightmare, but we did it. We got it going, and that's what matters. And to celebrate, we have another special guest joining the podcast for the very first time. It's my colleague from Nintendo Voice Chat, Logan Plant.
Hi, Kat. Thanks for having me. It's more like Hammer of the Plumber today. I think
yeah. Today I am a plumber.
Sorry.
I like that.
I did some serious stream plumbing, that's for sure. Yes, this week we will be talking about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, which has now officially been remastered, remade, question mark. It's out on
I think it's a remake.
Yeah?
It's a remake to me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that front. So we'll be talking all about that, how it holds up and everything. It'll be really great. So please look forward to that. In the meantime, if you enjoy the show, please support us on the podcatcher of your choice by leaving us a review. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod. We stream every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. We started a little bit late because we fired up the stream and it was immediately kind of a problem. But then
We fired up the stream and it went on fire.
Yes, because Eric isn't
totally
here.
Fired up.
But I did a whole bunch of messing around and cropping and learning about technology, and now we're okay. So we're doing fine now. Thank God.
We're bouncing
Good job,
like a hippopotamus on one foot on a chair that's kind of precariously perched on another chair, and it'll be fine.
It sure will. And of course, go and support us. If you support us on Patreon, you can join our lovely Discord. You'll get access to the show ad-free. You'll get lots of specials. We're in the process of playing through our monthly game club for Pantheon of the Blood God. And in fact, this week we'll be voting on another selection.
Wow, time.
What will that vote be? Find out by joining the Patreon. And we'll be talking about 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim for this upcoming Pantheon, which I've been playing. Actually,
Good for you.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's good.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So,
Logan, have you played it?
No, I haven't.
I recommend.
you should play it. I think you'd like it. It's on Switch.
Cool.
Okay. Time now to talk about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door Remastered. Logan, you reviewed it on IGN.com, and you said, Paper Mario has finally returned to its RPG roots with an amazingly loyal and visually dazzling remake of Thousand Year Door. Everything fans have been begging Nintendo to bring back is here, including a delightfully varied turn-based battle system, etc., etc., etc. And you also noticed a host of modern improvements. Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so there's a ton of cool improvements in the Thousand Year Door remake that I think make it the definitive way to play the Thousand Year Door. And I say that as a diehard fan of the original. I love the GameCube version so much, and I like this one even more. I think that one of the biggest issues from the original is just a little bit of the tedium and backtracking that just brings the experience down a little bit. Some of the level design isn't the best, and to swap partners, you have to pause into the menu to swap them, then unpause to if you need to use coops to kick a shell or something like that. And this remake does a ton to fix those issues, like the new partner ring where you can just hold down the shoulder button and swap partners on the fly. That's a really, really awesome quality of life feature. It's so simple, but it just makes such a difference. Like if you know the last dungeon of the game, there are so many partner swapping puzzles in there, and it just makes them so snappy to be able to swap partners so quickly like that. And then another cool thing that they did was they streamlined some of the backtracking a little bit with this revamped warp pipe room that has a warp pipe path to every location in the game, including the Glitz Pit, which didn't have one before. You had to go to the blimp before to ride all the way to the Glitz Pit, but now there's a warp pipe that takes you straight there. And I think in the original, the warp pipe room is kind of split up in the Rogueport sewers into two separate areas, and it's a little bit clunky to navigate, but this takes a page straight out of the Origami King, which just has this really nice fast travel hub. It's a circle of 7 warp pipes. A new warp pipe springs up after you complete each chapter that takes you back to the central location from that chapter. And if you know the name General White, you know that that is a particularly terrible part of the original, and
Yeah.
it's really easy now because
Oh, good.
you just zip through all the pipes really quickly to go and find them in all these locations, and it takes less than 10 minutes. So yeah, they just streamlined only some of the issues that were holding back the original, and the original's already awesome. So yeah, these improvements make it even better.
Yeah, I love the original like you. It's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite of the Mario RPGs. And I do love Origami King and all of that, but it's really nice to see the just get back to that RPG mechanic, especially with how cleverly the audience has implemented. Like so many times, like they warn you, okay, there's these jerks in the audience who might throw something at you, but you might get a fan who throws
Mhm.
a nice thing at you, and like you get the alarm when someone's going to throw something, whether good or bad. And I keep hitting Toad to want to throw me hearts.
Oh, poor
And I don't
guys.
know if I'm damaging my reputation that way, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's the original is just a fantastic game, and I think everyone was just like, "What?" when Nintendo actually acknowledged this again, because as we have talked about on this podcast, and we can talk about now if you like, is Paper Mario has always been a contentious is the word I want to use maybe here series with how
Mhm.
it's depicted across certain games and how Sticker Star really let a lot of people down. But this just feels like Nintendo saying, okay, not only is Mario Thousand Year Door, not only does it exist, but it is deserving of a really good, really nice polish up. And they did a great job in music. This is my first time actually listening to the soundtrack through headphones. And
Oh, cool.
Rogueport, holy, I forgot how much that slaps. Like, that is just a theme for the ages.
Yeah, it's so cool. I remembered every song so well. It's just such an iconic game. I remembered every beat of it, and I haven't played in at least a decade. And
It's been a
still, just
long
talking to
time.
every character, it's so memorable. I can't say that about every RPG in the Mario series at all. Like this one is just the one to me. It always has been, and this remake is kind of proving, oh, I wasn't just blind by nostalgia. It
Hmm.
actually is this good. It still is this good, and I think that's really validating to a lot of longtime fans. Is as the Paper Mario series has just gone off the rails. And I like Origami King too. I think that game is really, really great, but it's not an RPG. And so to get back to that RPG gameplay of Thousand Year Door and prove that in 2024 it is as good as we all remember it, it's just a really exciting time, I think, for Paper Mario fans and for Nintendo fans that, yeah, this one that you've been banging the drum for 20
Yeah.
years, yes, it is as good as you remember. And a whole host of new people are going to be able to play it for the first time. And I just think that's so cool.
I'm in the remake, I'm only up to the point where because I didn't play it for review, but I'm up to the point where I'm in
Mhm.
Hooktail's castle, basically.
Nice.
And I used to say that this is one of the best written games of all time, and I think I still stand by that. Like, even though the story is it's like it's very simple. It's a Mario RPG. It's not supposed to be complicated,
Mhm.
but the characters are all just the writing's so good. It's so funny. So it flows so well.
Yeah.
Nintendo, like Mario RPGs in general have always had pretty good writing, but I think Thousand Year Door is definitely the best of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the writing is super sharp and really, really funny. And it's not as kind of comedy bent as something like Origami King or Color Splash
Mhm.
is. And I think those games are hilarious, but it's that's kind of like a comedy adventure. Every line is
Yeah.
supposed to be funny. And I think it lacks some of the heart that Thousand Year Door really packs in because it has a ton of heart and it's really funny at the same time. It manages to pull off both, and I think it's better for that.
When people talk about Thousand Year Door, they usually talk about how it's much more RPG than some of the later games in the series, specifically in terms of the battle system. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that manifests in Thousand Year Door?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, you just level up, and you don't even
Yeah.
level up in every Paper Mario game beyond this point,
No,
which is
you
kind of
don't.
crazy. And when you do level up, you have a choice to upgrade 3 different things. You can upgrade Mario's health, you can upgrade his flower points, which is just like magic points in the Paper Mario universe, and you can upgrade badge points. And badges, I think, is where things get really, really interesting because
Mhm.
there's 85 badges, I think, in Thousand Year Door, and you can buy them at the badge shop, or you can find them hidden out in the world, or there's different merchants that trade them for collectibles like star pieces or for higher coin values. And you can equip Mario with as many badges as badge points he can hold hold, and they do things like give him new attacks, like the Quake Hammer, which attacks all ground enemies at the same time, or they also impact Mario's stats. Like my favorite badge is one that increases Mario's attack but lowers his defense stats. So I was like this glass cannon where I needed to execute my action commands perfectly to deal more damage, and then when it was the enemy's turn, you need to block better, because if you don't, your defense is lower, so you take more damage. And even though you only have 2 party members out in the field at once, it's Mario and your partner of choice, there's still a ton of decisions and choice in how you build Mario as a character, and there's so many different ways that you can do it. And I just dumped all my level ups into badge points just to see how crazy of a build I could make, since I've played this game so many times. And by the end, I could one-shot a boss by the end of the game because of the beast that I had turned Mario into. And I'm not saying it's that easy for everybody, but just knowing all the badge systems, I was able to kind of play around with it to build just this crazy beast of a Mario that was really fun to play with.
One thing I noticed was when you encounter enemies that are holding on to items, you can see the items. I don't remember, was that part of the original as well?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think
like
that's
that.
new.
That's
yeah, it's cool.
something about that. Like I always find like the steal command in RPGs to be really like, I don't use it because it's so like it hardly ever works. You don't know if anyone has anything like a magical sword or a crappy ass potion. But when I see it, it's like, okay, so that's something that's worth fighting for.
Yeah, totally.
Steal in Final Fantasy V is essential, because that's how you. The trick with Final Fantasy V, sorry to digress, is that A, you can steal a lot of good stuff. So if you don't do that, like, you're going to have a much harder time. And B, blue magic is really good in that game.
Yes.
And those are 2 mechanics that I tend to ignore when I'm playing a Final Fantasy game, which makes Final Fantasy V exponentially harder. Anyway, so I don't know how good steal is in Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, but...
No, I don't know if there is. No, there's gotta be, because there's mouse.
Steal. You just gotta take out the enemy that has the item before they use it, basically.
But actually, Kat, that's a very fruitful diversion, because for our latest episode of Charlene Dropouts, I think it's a free episode, we had Sinner Breyer, aka Wook-Lamat, the voice of Wook-Lamat. We were talking about Final Fantasy V and how it inspired Final Fantasy 14. So even though you don't play 14, that probably be a good listen for you.
Charlene Dropouts, our official Final Fantasy 14 podcast, and if you can subscribe and get special episodes through our Patreon. Wow.
Yes, you can.
What a fruitful diversion. A lot of people would say that Paper Mario 1000 Year Door is like the best written, like sharpest Paper Mario like out there. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the writing is just, I think what really sticks out about it is that this is a Mario game that is so different than any other, let alone Mario RPG or Mario game in general. Like, just the setting of Rogueport is just this seedy, weird, graffiti-ridden town with mob fights breaking out in the background. Mario gets pickpocketed just seconds into getting to Rogueport, and it just is immediately setting the tone. Yeah, you have to go like track down the thief behind the city to get your money back, and it just instantly sets this tone of, oh, this isn't your standard Mario game. This is a really different kind of take on the Mario world. And it keeps that up throughout its entire run, constantly introducing new characters that all have something funny to say or something that contributes to the world building. One detail I just adore is, in this game, Mario gets paper abilities where he can turn into a paper airplane or turn into a boat. And the way that you get those is just such a funny way to turn kind of an RPG trope on its head. You get this new mechanic, and you unlock this chest, and it's this evil spirit that pops out, and it's cackling, and it's saying, I'm going to curse you for all eternity, Mario. You're going to be screwed. You're never going to be the same again. And then it grants you this ability to turn into a paper airplane. And then the evil spirit is like, oh, see what I did? It's so bad. And then you use that ability to get through the rest of the game. And it's just such a small touch that just really stands out, and I think kind of elevates the writing to a level that the series hasn't really seen since. And it's just so funny and charming.
Yeah, when you get the airplane ability, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it is something to the effect of wallow in your aerodynamic shame. And it was just a ridiculous line that made me lose it.
hmm Yeah, it's super great, and the partners also I think are really special. And the series hasn't seen traditional partners like this since. I know Super Paper Mario had the pixels, but they didn't even really talk. They were just like, oh, it's a JPEG of a butterfly. It's not really a partner. But the partners in Thousand Year Door are awesome. There's Koops, who he's a Koopa. He's got a band-aid on his nose. He's wearing a hoodie. He's adorable. He's
He's so cute. He's my
super.
favorite.
Yeah, he is also my favorite, I think. And Vivian. Those are my two favorite
Vivian's great.
partners. Always have them. And Koops wants to go fight Hooktail to avenge his dad, and he musters up the courage to travel with Mario. And it's just so cute and so memorable. And I also love that every dialogue scenario has lines for each partner depending on who you have equipped at the time. So you walk into
Hmm.
a room and a cutscene triggers, and the partner is ready to say something no matter who it is. So you can kind of travel with whatever partner you want out, and that's the run that you had. And you see what Vivian had to say in all these scenarios, or what Captain Bobbery had to say in all these scenarios. And it's really cool just how they kind of balance that, especially for a game from 2004, to have these branching
Mm.
dialogue trees that change depending on which partner you had out. It's really impressive.
I didn't realize it the first time I played, but I think there's an implication that quote unquote teenage bombs tend to blow up more, which I've always thought was I think is very cute.
That's funny.
What do you think of the fact that it's in 30 FPS?
I
I
didn't
don't
even
mind at all.
notice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
It
notice.
that was like
I
one of the
just didn't.
first things people were talking about was the fact that it was 30 FPS.
mhm. Yeah, it doesn't bother me literally at all. I'm not a stickler for performance. I never have been. I'm a
Mm.
Nintendo fan.
You
I
are a
can't
Nintendo
be.
fan.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
it doesn't bug me at all. There's a couple times where it slowed down. Thousand Year Door has 8 moments probably where there's over 100 character models on screen, and it's funny because it's like that old GameCube demo. Was it Mario 128
Mario
where they have
2028,
just
yeah.
a ton of Marios on screen, and it's like, oh, this is the game where they took advantage of that hardware the most back on GameCube. It's like they really wanted to show off. Look how many characters can be on screen on GameCube,
Yeah.
and those are the only moments where there's a tiny bit of slowdown on Switch. But if people weren't making such a big deal about it, I wouldn't even mention it because it doesn't bother me at all. If that's what's holding people back from playing this, don't let it, because you're robbing yourself of one of the best Mario RPGs there's ever been.
I feel like there's just no reason to notice. It's like
Yeah.
the first shot you get in widescreen of Rogueport is just like, wow, that's so cool to begin with.
Mhm.
Why I don't really care about 60 FPS. I mean, it's been so long since I played the original that I forgot it was ever 60 FPS.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a snob these days. Really struggle
Oh
with anything
no.
below 60 FPS. But also it's Nintendo Switch, so I kind of like shrug. I'm surprised
Isn't
when
it?
Mhm.
something's in 60 FPS like pleasantly. I'll go, "Wow, 60 FPS. I can't
Yeah.
believe it."
Mhm.
It's a Nintendo Switch game that's extremely stylized. Like the art style
Yeah.
is unlike anything
It's
else
not a
other than other
deal
Paper
breaker,
Mario
I
games.
don't think.
No, it's
Mhm.
really not. It's you won't even notice once you're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I play, I'm playing Persona 3 Reload, as many of you know, because I stream it every week. I run through This Week in Gekkoukan here on twitch.tv/bloodgodpod. I do really notice with those games. It just
Right.
adds a lot to it, I think, especially with the visual flourishes and everything. But I don't know if that's the case necessarily with Thousand Year Door, because I think the artistry, the sort of, I always love that Mario loves to do the stage play thing. They do it in
Yeah.
Thousand Year Door. They do it in
Mhm.
Mario 3. It's very cute. It works really well. So the stylization, as you were saying, Nadia, is really the star of the show with this one.
Yeah, I want to talk about the stage for a second because I haven't told this story yet on a podcast. I've been making the rounds talking about Thousand Year Door this week, but I'll share this here. I did not know on the GameCube original that stylish moves were a thing. I was a kid when I played this version and I didn't know they existed. And if you don't know, stylish moves are when in battle, when Mario lands a jump, it's the classic Mario RPG action commands. You want to hit the A button right when you land your jump to deal more damage. But Thousand Year Door takes it a step further, where then if you hit A again at kind of the apex of Mario's jump after he bounces on an enemy, he does a little backflip or a little showy
Oh,
move to the crowd,
I
and it
forgot about
helps
that.
fills your star power meter. And it's super cool because this is kind of a high level technique that they don't tell you exists in the game. There's a badge that you can find that's called Timing Tutor. And this is actually how I discovered it in the remake. I found this badge called Timing Tutor, and it says, displays when you're supposed to hit the A button to pull off stylish moves. And I went, stylish moves? I don't know what that is. And I equip this badge, and yeah, this little A icon flashes next to Mario and all his partners in combat, and you do it. And Koops, after he drives through a group of enemies with his shell, he does a little break dance if you hit A at the right time.
I
Or
used to be able to do that in
Yoshi
the
Kid
original.
waves to the crowd, and
Yeah.
it's so cool. And it's just another thing to kind of stack on top of an already pretty brilliant turn-based battle system that I never got sick of fighting through the 30 hours I spent in this game, because there's just so much to think about all the time. Like Nadia was talking about the crowd that wants to throw stuff at Mario. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You have to think about that. Sometimes stage lights can fall and you have to block them to not take damage. Sometimes, let's see what else can happen. Like the fog machines will freeze enemies. There's so much going on.
Guy jumped on stage and sabotaged my set and sent the lights falling.
He probably got banned for life. He can't go back to the theater.
No, he's not going back.
Yeah.
If I see him, I'll kill him.
Funny to think back to. I mean, I grew up with Nintendo. I assume, Logan, you grew up with Gamecube, ? That's like your OG system. Yeah, I grew up with the
N64 I had, but I was really young at the time. So Gamecube's kind of the first one that I was really playing, yeah.
You and Reb. I grew up with the NES, and there were so many games that I just legit had no idea how to play because I didn't understand the fiddlier mechanics, and games back then were really bad at explaining themselves.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's kind of funny to hear you have that tradition continued onto the GameCube 15 years later or whatever.
I don't think it does now. They tell you everything in games now how to play.
To the point of being exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Do they tell you how to, like, in Thousand Year Door, there's the block, yes, and there's also like a counter that you do B instead of A for. Do they ever tell you how to do the counter versus the block, or is that something you got to find out for yourself?
I think in the original you have to find out for yourself, but now they have this Battle Master Toad, who's a new NPC that he's in every single town. You can talk to him to kind of practice your timing with no penalty for losing. And there is a tutorial there on the Super Guard. But I think in the original they don't tell you.
Yeah, because it was my husband, because he's a huge fan of this game too, and he was the one who told me, "Hey, don't forget you can counter as well as block." And I'm like, my life begins today. But the thing is, the block is actually quite easy. It's the counters that are difficult. The timing is very different. So I like that there's that option. And
I was wondering if that was going to be harder or easier in 30 FPS, kind of because the Super Guard, you have to hit B, and it's not frame perfect, but it's pretty close. You have a few frames to do it. And so I booted up the GameCube version, and it seems pretty similar difficulty to land a Super Guard in GameCube and Switch. So I think that's been maintained pretty well.
I have a funny story about playing the original. When I first played when I first played Thousand Year Door, I was working as a dog groomer at a place, well, say it rhymes with PetSplart. And I had found another job at an independent salon. So when I said, "Oh, here's my 2-week notice," they said, "Nope, you're getting out right now. You get paid for 2 weeks because they don't want you taking their competitors." Which I don't care. I'm not taking your competitors. I don't give a damn. So I got paid to stay home and play Thousand Year Door for 2 weeks. It was pretty good.
That's pretty awesome.
Good old PetSplart. Right along with Phony and Panaphonics and all of the Sorny.
Magnavox. Magnetbox, that was it.
I remember when Paper Mario Thousand Year Door came out on the GameCube, and it was kind of a bad time for the GameCube. 2004, thereabouts. A little bit of
Not great.
We had all kind of realized that the GameCube was on its way out by then. I will say this over and over again. It's so funny to me that the GameCube has sort of become beloved and considered a top-tier Nintendo system, because, Nadia, you and I remember how much people complained about that thing back in the day.
They didn't just complain about it. They were like, "What is this thing? Why does it look like this? And why does it have a handle?" And I agree, the handle was a little bit Nintendo, like being like,
"Hey,
everyone, have a handle." Lunchbox. The lunchbox.
People were like, is Nintendo going to literally get bought by Xbox? People were.
Yeah.
Is this
Apple,
it?
Xbox.
We were 2 years removed from Sega leaving the console market, which was just a massive moment, huge sea change. The moment when we transitioned to an entirely new era is when Sega left the console market. And a lot of people thought Nintendo was going to be joining them. It was obvious that they just couldn't compete with PlayStation and Xbox on the graphics department, certainly. And GameCube, I think GameCube and Xbox were sort of neck and neck, and PS2 was just absolutely destroying them
PS2.
both. Yeah, there was a point where I bought my GameCube in like 2003, I think. And that was because they slashed prices and bundled it with the Zelda collection.
Oh, cool. Right. That was pretty good, actually. That was a good incentive.
And I managed to get... It's funny, you can't get Nintendo games cheap anymore. Back then, though, you could go to like a GameStop or whatever. I was getting Metroid Prime and got Metroid Prime for like $20. I got Super Smash Brothers Melee. I got a bunch of really good games for pretty low price. And in hindsight, like the GameCube did have a decent number of third-party games, but as a Nintendo diehard at the time, every time a new game got announced, I was going, please come out on GameCube. Please come out on GameCube. And then it would inevitably come out on GameCube, but it would be like, it doesn't have online play or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah, that's interesting because I obviously knew none of that as a kid just playing the GameCube. I've always thought it was one of the best, and I still do to this day. So yeah, I think my generation's part of the reason that it's kind of come into better favor. And yeah, but then as I get older and I start to learn more about Nintendo and how things were going on, it's like, wow, the GameCube barely sold at all. Like 20 to 30 million lifetime? That is not very great
pretty bad.
at all. Yeah.
I think only Wii U was worse.
The GBA was carrying Nintendo back in those days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
It was a weird time for consoles because Microsoft was like, hey, here's some advancements so you can do your consoles. How about hard drive? And Japan was just not having anything to do with the Xbox.
Nintendo was like, GBA GameCube connectivity, yo!
Tingle tuner.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, and it's like you had to have it's a good idea in theory, but when you have to buy, like, say, for example, for Crystal Chronicles, 4 GBAs and a GameCube and the adapters, who the hell's going to do that? Sorry, Nintendo.
I played Four Swords Adventures.
Crystal Palace.
So did I.
It was hard. I wanted to play Crystal Chronicles so bad, but it meant having 4 GBAs and 4 chords. It was crazy.
Yeah. Nobody, especially in North America.
We got 2. My sister and I got the Game Boy cables to play Four Swords Adventures together, and we loved that game. But now our GBAs are a little worse for wear, and it does this thing where if the battery falls out of the Game Boy Advance, which happens all the time now, it just boots you back to the title screen. So it's almost impossible for us to play through that thing anymore, which is a shame.
Can you not tape it up or something?
Yeah, it just, and sometimes it just fails and just hard reboots, and yeah, these things are dying. Yeah. Yeah.
And when
they should bring back Four Swords.
But the thing is, like, Thousand Year Door showed that there was still like some real bangers coming out on the GameCube at this time, even when it was sort of dark times. And what we didn't realize at the time was that Nintendo would always be around because of games like Thousand Year Door, because of characters like Mario, who you just can't get anywhere else. And it's a testament, I think, to the power of these characters and the power of these classic games that Nintendo has endured even through the very rough times, because they would get worse. Within 10 years, they would get much, much worse.
I think Nintendo's the only person the only company on the market now where it's like
Mr. Nintendo.
Mr. Nintendo, how you doing? He's here. It's the only consoles that you get that where the first party still carries the consoles. Like I would have, even if I didn't get
hello Sony.
I was gonna say, like, well, would you say Sony's first party carries them? Like their
very
first
much
parties?
so. I think that.
Well, I guess you're right.
Certainly over Xbox. Like
Over Xbox. I mean, I don't know what Xbox
people
has
are
going on
buying
right now.
PlayStations for Spider-Man and God of War and whatnot. So,
well, back then it's like Nintendo had nothing going on in terms of third party, but I would have still bought their consoles for the first party offerings no matter what. Like I would have bought an N64 for Zelda, but I just wouldn't have bought it first. I would have waited and gotten a PlayStation.
Yeah, well, how many million sellers does Nintendo have on Switch? It's some insane number, like 60 games they've published that have sold
Like,
over 1 million copies.
even
every
the little
game
ones.
they've published.
Yeah,
Didn't like
almost.
it's almost guaranteed that a game, just because of the Switch's install base at this point, it's almost guaranteed as a first party Nintendo game is probably gonna break 1 million. Like Princess Peach Showtime, that broke 1 million, right?
Yeah, in 9 days it broke 1 million already.
Like
Wow.
easily, right? It's just if it's a Mario game, it's probably gonna do pretty well. And last year's Mario game, 2D Mario, did really, really well. Hit really well with families and whatnot. As for Paper Mario, it was a relatively small game at the time, but it held in high regard. Everybody talked about how great the writing was, and it really, definitely really stood out because it carried on the tradition of Mario RPG and making Mario a character with personality. It made Mario genuinely funny. The comedy chops, as we were discussing earlier, were really evident in this game. But then Paper Mario started to change with the Wii. It became almost more of a platformer on that platform. And then from that point on, a lot of people would say that Thousand Year Door was the peak of Paper Mario. And then it was all kind of downhill from there. Is that like an unfair statement?
I don't think it's unfair. I think it's really, really fair. We actually did a poll on IGN in my 1,000 Year Door review, and I just asked, "What is your favorite Paper Mario game?" And there were 6 choices, and with nearly 6,000 votes, 1,000 Year Door is 65% of the vote. It's just far and away the favorite of this franchise. I'm hard pressed to think of a franchise where the favorite game is more definitive than Paper Mario. And I know the original has its fans. I love Paper Mario on N64. Super Paper Mario has its fans too. I personally thought it strayed way too far. I didn't like the platforming as much.
I didn't like it so much.
After that, Sticker Star, no thanks. That game has a few defenders. It's got to be people who that was their first Paper Mario. Like, that's the only way I could see people defending that game. Color Splash, a step in the right direction, but still very much a Sticker Star 2. And Origami King, I think that game does some things better than 1,000 Year Door. I think its world design is impeccable, and the writing is also really, really great, and it's gorgeous. But that combat system, what were they thinking? It's so weird, and it gets tiresome to me after 5 or so hours of a 30-hour game. So 1,000 Year Door is the one, and I think if Intelligent Systems kind of takes the best elements of 1,000 Year Door and the best elements of Origami King, combines them, and leaves the worst behind, they'll have a really special modern Mario RPG, and I hope that's what they do next. I hope that's why they remade this game.
Yeah, one thing people talk about a lot is the distinctive toads for kind of as an encapsulation of what went wrong, quote unquote, with Paper Mario. And that is with 1,000 Year Door, you see a lot of different races, a lot of different individuals from the races, like Toads and Koopas, and they all look different, and they all kind of have their own cultures. By the way, are the Canadian penguins still there?
Yeah, they are. They're still in there.
Yeah, so you have like the penguins from Mario, for example, and they live in a village, and they all talk Canadian, and stuff like that went by the wayside in subsequent games, and infamously, that's why Katyo ended up asking Miyamoto himself, "Hey, do you hate stories?" Because he got this thing attached to him where apparently he said with Sticker Star, "Hey, why do we have so much of a story here? We don't need that." And Sticker Star stripped out most of its story. But it made a lot of people widely regarded as a bad move. It made a lot of people very angry. So, but since then, like Origami King, like they're really kind of building that personality back up. But you haven't seen the same variety of races and variety within the races. And I'm hoping that is coming back. And that's why Nintendo's just like, okay, this does exist. Okay, we're sorry. We like stories. See?
True. I did ask Shigeru Miyamoto himself, "Do you hate stories? Why do you hate stories?"
That's so awesome.
You hate stories, Mr. Miyamoto.
There
he is. He's Mr. Nintendo.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, it was really the new Super Mario Brosification of the Paper Mario series, and Mario
Hmm.
and Luigi to some extent also. Dream Team and Paper Jam really kind of abandoned just some of the original characters and designs that both Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario were known for. And in Thousand Year Door, it's so cool that they left pretty much all of that untouched. Like there are species in this game that don't appear in any other Mario game at all, or
Yeah,
even
like
any
the
other Paper Mario
Dugans.
game. They're just here, and
I
they're
was
great.
saying that my husband and I were looking at the Dugans who are like in Rogueport. They're like these weird dog lizard things, and I said, "Are these like proto mammals? Like you would get from the before the Permian extinction? You had like these animals that were
Mhm.
like because they look like they're part Yoshi, but they have dog nose. So I said like these are, and they're called Dugans. So I said, oh, these are like proto mammals, Nintendo series proto mammals.
Yeah.
Um, if you had to choose Thousand Year Door or Superstar Saga.
Oh, Thousand Year Door.
Thousand Year
Hands
Door.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I love the Mario and Luigi games. I love Bowser's Inside Story. That's probably one of my favorites, right along upside
me too.
Thousand Year Door. But the original Mario and Luigi, I found it very I found that the boss battles tended to drag on, and I felt that it was actually very hard for me to coordinate those button presses between the brothers with
Mhm.
the moves. I don't know why. I just don't think I don't know, maybe my wiring's all screwed up. But yeah, it just I liked the remake because they really kind of simplified a lot of it, and I liked the additional chapter that they kind of added on to that. I loved the additional chapter in the remake of Bowser's Inside Story with Bowser Jr., but nobody played the game, so nobody knows what I'm talking
Nope,
about.
mm-mm.
It was so good.
Yeah, that was such a late 3DS game. That came out like a year after
Th
Switch. But
that
yeah,
yeah, that
Bowser's
was, like,
Inside
right
Story
at the end.
is it's also my favorite Mario and Luigi game, but I still think Thousand Year Door runs circles around all of them. I think it is just
Mm,
so far and away the best Mario RPG.
Well, it's really remarkable that it's built up such a legacy, given that for a long time it was really hard to get anywhere
yeah.
outside of the
Mhm.
GameCube. You basically had to have a copy, which became more and more expensive as time went on because people weren't selling them. And you had to have like a Wii, because the Wii U didn't play GameCube games, right? Yeah.
It did not.
Yeah, you had to have a
No.
Wii, you had to have a CRT, or you had to be playing on Dolphin or something to be able to
Mhm.
enjoy this game. But it really just over time built up this big beloved sort of fandom. It became uplifted, I want to say, where people talked about it in these really glowing terms. I think its lack of availability created sort of a mystique around it, and
Mhm.
especially as the sort of sentiment around Paper Mario started to fall, people would be like, yeah,
Mhm.
but have you played Thousand Year Door? I mean, you're not as cool as I am. I had a GameCube. I'm an OG.
I'm an OG.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
was
that's
certainly an
totally
OG.
true. It did have this legend built around it for sure, and I think, like, for so many reasons, both because of how few people played it and, like you said, Kat, because of where the series went, it totally did gain this legendary status, and I do
Mhm.
think it's earned having have played this remake, and, like, I'm not a person who is really beholden to nostalgia. If I play something I used to love that's not as good anymore, I'll call it out. I'll straight up say, "Hey, this is from a place and a time, and it's not
Yeah.
as good anymore," but Thousand Year Door didn't. I was a little worried about it when I was assigned this review. I was like, oh no, am I going to go in and say, hey, it's still good,
But
but
what
it's
if
not
it's
as
bad
amazing as everybody
though?
thinks? Yeah,
No.
and I was
Yeah.
I was worried about that, but fortunately that didn't end up happening because yeah, it is that good and it's earned that reputation over time.
Yeah, so far I'm just having a great time.
Hmm.
Well, it's out on Nintendo Switch now. You can buy it. It's a legend. You should go. It sounds like we have an unequivocal recommendation, Logan.
Yes, play this game, please. I really, really hope this game does really, really well because I want Nintendo and Intelligence Systems to take note. This is what we want from Paper Mario, and if this thing can outsell Origami King and Super Mario RPG, I think that could help send a message. And also, just go play it because you'd be doing yourself a disservice not to. It's
It's good.
so
Yeah,
good, and
it's one of the must plays.
yeah, and I love short RPGs. I love RPGs that are 30 to 40 hours, and this took me 30 hours to beat. I think that is the perfect length for me for an RPG. So I think it doesn't overstay its welcome at all. And yeah, it's really snappy and easy to play through. And yeah, I think that you'll love it.
So funny to think of Intelligent Systems, which I know is mainly the Fire Emblem slash Advance Wars
Yeah.
Hmm.
developer, also doing just an incredible job with story and doing an incredible job with Paper Mario, and also shout out and fair play to the localizers with this game who did a fantastic job with the comedic writing in this one. All right, that's our review of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Go check out Logan's review over on IGN.com. And now it's time for a series of random encounters. I take a little risk here. Let's see if this works. Nope, didn't work. State of play is likely for this week as a new Astrobot game leaks. Will we be seeing the PS5 Pro at the State of Play? I guess we'll be finding out. As for what RPG fans can expect, we'll see. Though there are a lot of rumors that a little game called Starfield might be announced for the PS5 before we know it. So I guess we'll find out, huh? Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian has opened a new studio in Poland as work on its new project ramps up. Baldur's Gate 3 PS5 physical edition delayed again due to production issues. Kingdom Hearts is coming to Steam next week. 1.5 and 2.5 remix will feature improved textures, and we'll also be getting a special fancy keyblade in this one. It's called the Dead of Night.
Damn.
Yeah, very metal for Kingdom Hearts, I have to say.
What's his name gonna assassinate like Disney characters with that? That'd be pretty cool.
Well, you know how Kingdom Hearts is. Logan, are you a Kingdom Hearts fan?
No, not at all. I tried Kingdom Hearts 1, couldn't do it.
No, it's because it wasn't on Nintendo platforms, right?
It's not the only stuff I play. I know that's my reputation. No, but I tried. It just didn't do it for me. I do think that I don't know if it's too hot of a take. Recently, Kat and I actually had a discussion about what console has the best library of all time, and I think Kat said PS2, and I just think that library is pretty overrated.
Whoa!
I agree. I stand with you on that one. I think PS1 or SNES.
Nice.
Okay. I mean, yeah. If I had to pick one that had the absolute best library of all time, maybe the PS1 is up there. But it's one of the PlayStation platforms. PS1, PS2, SNES. They're all kind of like neck and neck.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind.
Switch is up there too, frankly.
Yeah, I mean the Switch is up there just because it has so many classic games. In terms of classic libraries, it's hard to beat the Switch. Just because it's not.
And has the greatest game of all time.
Are you talking about Mario Odyssey, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild?
Tears of the Kingdom. It's Tears of the Kingdom, hands down.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably my favorite so far.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom's a really damn good game. Game of the year at IGN.com. Though Baldur's Gate 3 kind of...
Sorry, Baldur's Gate.
Take that, Baldur's Gate. Even though Baldur's Gate 3 kind of swept the ratings and everything. We're way too early to be able to do a pantheon on Baldur's Gate 3, but in my brain right now, it is the best RPG ever made. And I don't know I can't really think of a game off the top of my head that tops it, but it is really remarkable that Breath of the Wild was considered hands down the best game until Tears of the Kingdom came out and seemed to throw everything into disarray. It's like, yeah, but Tears of the Kingdom even better. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Basically.
It was a really special experience playing it. I was playing it this time last year. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was.
I know, I went fast.
Were you going to say something, Nadia?
Oh, just I was playing it. I remember this time last year.
Yeah, time did fly, didn't it? Good. We were doing Talk of the Kingdom.
I remember that.
Nintendo voice chat. That was a lot of fun. And finally, we got our first look at Liam Hemsworth as Geralt, and he looks like, well, Geralt.
Makes sense.
I wrote in my notes, Geralt with improved textures, because I accidentally was messing up the notes slightly, so I was like being confused. But okay, we're rolling into the tavern now. We're hanging out to talk about mostly entertainment. I'll start. I was traveling this week, and I was in Atlanta for my nephew's graduation. Congratulations to James. It was my first
Congrats.
time ever going to Atlanta. And I've been to the South, but this is kind of one of the handful of times I've been to the South as an adult. And this was a big moment, Nadia. I saw my first ever Waffle House.
How have I been to the Waffle House before you?
Well, I grew up in Minnesota, and then I moved to California, and with a stint living in Japan, and none of those had a Waffle House.
You telling me Japan doesn't have a waffle?
There are no Waffle Houses in Japan, so
That's where wasn't there that whole thing where the producer of Tekken said, "Why do people keep asking me to put a level in the Waffle House? What is with that?" And people had to explain, well, the Waffle House is where fights break out in America. And he's like, "Oh, okay."
yeah. So
Yeah, I think the reason I went to a Waffle House before you is because my husband is from NC, so I've been down there many times and had many Waffle Houses.
many Waffle Houses, many waffles were had, but
Many waffles were had.
my sister picked me up from the airport and drove me to her house. And as we were driving, I suddenly started seeing Waffle House after Waffle House. It was like a Starbucks. They were every like mile or so, it felt like. And I was like, Waffle House, Waffle House, Waffle House. Holy cow.
It's like they're a corridor. You know, of course, about the whole Waffle House index.
What's the Waffle House index?
Waffle House is basically infamous for never closing ever. And in fact, if there is a natural disaster that forces a Waffle House to shut down, I think FEMA itself will take that as oh man, something bad is going on there. And there's like red, which means the Waffle House is totally closed. Yellow, which means the Waffle House is kind of closed, but it's got power. It can make some food for you. And then green is all lights go.
I think my family was just kind of debating, or I think they were reminiscing about the times that the Waffle House actually closed and like what a big deal that was. So they're like, oh, it's bad when the Waffle House closed.
You would like for a Waffle House to close, it has to be flattened. There have been storms though recently that have closed down Waffle Houses because some pretty intense storms out there these days.
Well, so I went to the Waffle House. I modeled in front of the Waffle House. I was like, okay, this is proof that I actually went there. I'll post the image in Discord so that people can look at it. But
did you eat at Waffle House?
I ate at the Waffle House. I was like, we gotta go to the Waffle House and have breakfast. And they were like, okay, like, yeah, they humored me. It was very nice of them to humor me about going to the Waffle House. And I ordered a bunch of stuff. I did, in fact, order a waffle. I ordered some scrambled eggs. I ordered a biscuit and egg sandwich. I got the hash browns. I got the weirdly good coffee. People will always be like, Waffle House coffee. Yeah. The mug was a little bit dirty.
Yeah, that's a Waffle House experience.
So we had to get a new mug. You're sitting in a booth, and it's an open kitchen, so you see people working. You see people working in the kitchen. It's like a fry line and that kind of thing. And we were all kind of like super crammed in there. And apparently Waffle House, because it's open 24 hours, I guess, is you go there when you're really drunk at 3 a.m. and that's why the fights break out.
Yeah, there's a great video of someone throwing a chair at the chick behind the counter, and she just deflects it with an arm, and it looks like a video game. Everyone was just worshiping her for a day. It was ridiculous. But yeah, you got to know how to fight if you're going to work at the Waffle House. The one near my husband's place, when he lived in NC, it was across the street from another one that was shut down. And the rumor is that one Waffle House got so filthy that they just opened another one across the street. I don't know if that's true, but I don't have a hard time believing it.
I would not say it's veg friendly, but I was able to. You can kind of order a lot of things a la carte, so I was able to, get a waffle and hash browns and whatnot. So it ended up working well. And so now I can ultimately it's C+ diner food.
It is,
as you
but
would
it's
expect.
Okay.
It's fine. It's perfectly okay if you're really drunk, and it was really cheap. like really, really cheap. We
Yeah.
had a group of 5. Yeah, we had 5 people in there having breakfast, and we paid like $50. And
Yeah, it's
No way. That's crazy.
yeah, it was $50. It was super cheap.
That's
it's
wild.
very cheap. That's why you get the fights, because it's like cheap, filling, decent enough hot food, and the truckers get in there and they're probably all hepped up in amphetamines, and like just the angry loners that we were talking about earlier, they probably go there at Waffle House at 3 in the morning. It's just a place where interesting people gather. You hear a lot of stories about Waffle House if you listen a lot to like wrestlers. They have a lot of stories from on the road, and something always goes down at a Waffle House.
Katsuhiro Harada. Okay, I will only ask once about this request. Why do some communities send me requests for Waffle House? Be sure to explain. Please be sure to explain the basis for this request, including the original story, history, and background. I look forward to an explanation from someone who knows more. One of the few good tweets of 2024.
I agree. I like how methodical he is about it. Like, okay, if you want this, you're gonna have to explain to me why.
Break
It's like a
down
report.
the Waffle
from a
House
teacher.
thing.
Yeah. Show your sources. I need a bibliography.
I grew up with IHOP, which I guess is the...
Yeah.
So there's IHOP, Waffle House, and in the Midwest there's Culver's. And Culver's is where you get the God, it's not chard, custard. That's different than chard. Where you get the custard, and that's like the thing. Have you ever been to a Culver's, Nadia?
No, my breakfast / all day options were very limited when I was a kid. For some reason, Canada didn't have, well, my area of Canada anyway, didn't have IHOP, didn't have Waffle House, God knows, but we had something called the Golden Griddle, and we would go there once in a while when I was young, and it was a weird place because they had a kids meal, but the thing with a lot of like independent Canadian restaurants is that when they offer a kids meal, the prices get weird, and so we had my little brother there, and he got the kids meal, and he got a comic book, and this comic book was actually it's Iraq Son of Thunder, which is very old. I think it's Marvel, but it's more of an, not necessarily adult, but it's not for like a 5-year-old boy. Like this particular issue had the titular Iraq with his ass right out, like he was naked, and that intrigued me as a young girl. But it just wasn't really the kind of comic that a child would love. And I remember my parents reading this and saying, "Hey, that's actually a pretty good comic." And yeah, Iraq Son of Thunder is actually known to be one of the better comic books series out there. So I was introduced to it through pancakes.
Wow.
Iraq is DC. Thank you, Sarden.
Logan, IHOP, Culver's, Waffle House.
What about Denny's? I haven't heard of
Denny's?
Denny's.
Oh, we do
mentioned
have
yet.
Denny's.
We did
Yeah.
have a Denny's.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's the most prevalent where I'm from, and it's like that's where you go after midnight because we don't have
Infamously
Waffle Houses
disgusting.
in Washington.
Yeah.
I expect that kind of
Yeah,
language
it's-
at
it's not
Denny's,
great.
but not here.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a Denny's. My partner loved to talk about going there at 3 a.m. after theater practice or completing a theater, celebrating at the local Denny's. But yeah, there's a Denny's everywhere. There's one in San Francisco.
Yep.
I think there was somebody who made it their bit to meet everybody at Denny's for their meetings during GDC. I'm sure Eric could tell us all about it, but apparently Denny's has weird kitty robots now, and it's terrifying. So this is what I'm hearing in our Discord.
That's like putting like robot servers in Waffle House. Denny's is a step up, but not a huge one. Don't get ahead of yourself, Denny's.
Yeah, no kidding.
I love that somebody said, we got a post-show talk in the main show, lol. It's true. If you subscribe to Axe of the Blood God at the Stars of Destiny tier, you get access to the post-show where you can get this kind of content all the time. So this is a special preview of our post-show, I guess.
Free sample.
I've been playing games too, but you know, it's all the usual stuff like Persona 3 Reload, and I almost beat Hades too. I got all the way to Chronos.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
How are
Very
you liking
close.
it better now?
Yeah, no, I really like it. It goes down different from the original Hades, which is I was saying on my stream was like one of my all-time favorites. I actually streamed a run last night, and
Oh, cool.
It was mostly a pretty bad run. I was doing really badly for most of the game, but somehow got all the way to the final level. My build really came together like halfway through, and I was just outputting a huge amount of damage. But at the end, I was just too far down in terms of death defiances and my health, so I ended up dying. R.I.P. But I did get some new content, which is great. You can go check out the VOD from that over on Twitch, including my most recent stream of This Week in Gekkoukan. I haven't been exporting them to YouTube, so they're vanishing like tears of the rain. So go check out the stream when they actually happen. I'm planning to stream this Wednesday. Actually, I'm back to doing a Wednesday stream. This will be when the This Week in Gekkoukan is. So mark your calendar. And it'll be around 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be doing a This Week in Gekkoukan. I just got through my exams, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
I don't think I did
them?
very well. No, I don't think I did very well because I was only up to Academics 2.
Oh, well, now no one's going to like you, Kat. You're not the cool person.
I
who does
think
well in
probably
your
I would
exams.
do like average, middle of the class. So, oh well.
You're not going to be a tall poppy. That's all right.
I guess so. Logan, you marked down Doctor Who. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Is anyone watching the new season of Doctor Who that's happening right now on Disney Plus?
No.
I was traumatized by Doctor Who when I was a child, so I never really watched it.
I feel
I've told
we
the
need to hear
story.
about that.
I've told the story before, but Canada had a lot of Doctor Who for some reason. There's something going on with the BBC and CBC. I don't know what it was. But growing up, I watched this station called TV Ontario, which was for younger people, and it had no commercials, so it would go right from one show into another.
Mm-hmm.
So I swear to God, the entire province has this trauma. There was a show called Polka Dot Door, which was literally for preschoolers. Like, yay, we're all gonna pretend and here's some puppets. Oh, isn't this fun? The show would end, end credits. It would go straight from those end credits to the time tunnel from Doctor Who, which is like, woo! So imagine being 3 years old and you're watching like, yay, Polka Dot Door. Oh my God, who is this person staring at me from down this weird ass tunnel thing? Of course I would run from the room, like probably screaming. So I never really got into Doctor Who.
Well, now is the best time to get into Doctor Who if you can
right
overcome
now.
that childhood incident. Yeah, because it just got rebooted on Disney Plus, and it's a brand new showrunner, brand new doctor, brand new companion, and I marked it down because I just watched the 4th episode of the season last night, and Doctor Who is my favorite show of all time, but it is something where it contains some of the worst episodes of television I've ever watched in my life and the best episodes of television I've ever watched in my life. It is peaks and valleys all the way through, and last night was one of those peaks. It was basically a 1-hour indie horror film was the episode last night, where the main companion, she is like she is being stalked by this woman that is always staying exactly 73 yards away from her, and it's incredibly cool, and how far they push that idea is really fun to watch and really scary and spooky and exciting. And so I'm just kind of on a Doctor Who high right now, so I just wanted to bring that up.
That sounds kind of terrifying, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was
sounds
a little
like
bit spooky.
SVU with mythical factors. Stabler, why is this woman transparent? Oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna punch a kid. That's why.
Whenever I ask, how should I get into Doctor Who, people usually say, watch the David Tennant years.
No.
You're shaking your head?
No.
No.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head.
No.
Tennant is a little bit, he's not my favorite. I think he's
Wow.
good, but my favorite doctors come after. Like Peter Capaldi is my favorite doctor. He
Who?
was 2 after David Tennant. But I think the way to start is you just got to start with where we're at now. The new season does a really good job at onboarding new fans, since it's kind of this reboot on Disney Plus, and they explain who the Doctor is, what he's about, and you can just stay up with the zeitgeist. You don't need to go back and watch 15-year-old TV unless you get really into it. So I think there's better stuff in the past, but the place to start is just right now with where we're going in 2024.
What he always says, the Crying Angels episode is really good.
Yes, the Weeping Angels.
Weeping Angels, even I know that one.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, they're awesome.
That's terrifying.
It sort of seems like it's an anthology show. You don't really need to watch all of them in order, right? You could just pick and choose the absolute essential Who episodes.
Yeah, you could. There's kind of overarching plot within each season, but it's fine if you just kind of ignore the 2 minutes an episode that actually contribute to that overall narrative. Because yeah, it is such an anthology show, and I think it's so cool because like we're so initiated in Doctor Who now that we see the scenes for next week, and it looks like some insane reality television show gone wrong with these giant worm aliens that are eating people, and it's like, yep, that looks like a normal fare for next week.
Today
And
on
what's going on in the world
TLC,
of Doctor
after
Who.
My 600-Pound Life, the worms that are eating people.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's like, yep, that's business as usual for Who. But yeah, already this season, there's been like goblins that feed on babies, and there's been a spaceship that's growing babies in test tubes, and there's been an episode where the Beatles have to save the day, and an episode where the Doctor stands on a landmine and he stands on it for the entire hour and has to figure out how to get off of it without it exploding. And then this past one with this woman stalking the companion. It's just so different every week, and I think that's why it's so fun. Is that it's just is always swinging for the fences, and I like appreciate ambitious media like that. And sometimes it falls really flat, but when it's good, it's seriously some of the best stuff ever.
Thoughts on the Matt Smith season?
I love Matt Smith. Yeah, he was my first Doctor. I started when I was 13. Was when he took over, and that's the perfect
bless.
age to get into Doctor Who. I think
That
is
is a
when
good
you're
age.
13. Yeah, and no, I love Matt Smith. There's a episode about Vincent Van Gogh, and that episode is
Oh,
incredible.
I've
It
seen
is so
the
good.
clip from the episode where he's showing Van Gogh, like, and saying, like, what do you think of Van Gogh? And everyone's
Yes.
saying, oh, he's probably the most brilliant artist of all time. And he's crying. That's so sad.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
that's the best episode of Doctor Who, probably.
really?
Yeah, and you can just watch it without knowing anything, as long as you know this is just a man who travels with his companion in a phone box. That's all you need to know, and you can just go watch the Vincent Van Gogh episode, and you will probably love it. It's so
And the
good.
phone box is bigger on the inside than the outside.
Yes. Yep.
I think the Matt Smith years were the first time I really became aware of Doctor Who as a thing. That was a popular nerd thing. Probably because there was some killer fan art coming out of Doctor Who around that time. So I was like,
Interesting.
oh, I'm compelled by this fan art. I'm really enjoying this. This Matt Smith fella seems all right. Nadia, what is it about Matt Smith that generates so much good fan art? Is it just that he's an interesting looking guy?
Yeah, that'll do it. That and a lot of horny teenagers love Doctor Who. They always have.
Horny teenagers.
They weren't like me. They were scared away at the age of 3, by a face.
I like this Scarf Doctor.
Scarf Doctor, yeah.
Yeah, Tom
That's fine.
Baker.
Dr. Scarf, the well-known time
Dr.
traveler.
Scarf. Well, the well-known Dr. Scarf.
I have
Velvet
never
Dr. Pepper.
ventured into old Doctor Who, the stuff from the 60s to the 90s. I tried to get into classic, and I just couldn't do it. So I'm only in New Who, because classic is it's just a different era of television. The episodes are drawn out over like 6 parts. They're really long, really slow, and plotting. And yeah, it's tough. That is an acquired taste, I think, to watch classic.
Now we're gonna watch classic Who. Smash Cut
Classic.
2.
Are we in a
I'm here
crisis?
with
Dr. Pepper's like the
AFL-CIO
name by Christ.
CEO George Meany. We're here to talk about labor relations while traveling through time. One of my favorite Simpsons jokes, so I'm glad we could get a Simpsons joke in there.
Classic Krusty.
Classic Who. Nadia, you wrote Star Wars Death Hotel. I assume you watched the Jenny Nicholson video about the Galactic Star Cruiser or whatever thing that was going on.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are like 4 hours. It's like, dude, don't sit there and watch the whole thing at once. I just kind of have it on my computer and I have it open.
4
and
hours.
I pick
That's
it as
rookie
I go.
numbers. Got to pump those numbers up.
And that's the thing. Like, yes, it is 4 hours, but they're all like, important. It's not like you're doing skits or anything like that, where you get with a lot of YouTubers who kind of insert their skits and it's not funny or useful. But it's all content, capital C content. Yes. Oh shoot, I'm really blanking on her last name. I feel bad about that because she has a whole like YouTube channel looking into theme parks and Disney and stuff like that. And yes, she went to the infamous Star Wars Hotel, or as it is officially known, Star Wars Galaxies. What's it called? Like something.
Cruiser, Galactic Star Cruiser or something like that.
Galactic Star Cruiser, yes. And so she's not only talking about like what went wrong, which was a lot of things, but she has footage from the experience, and I'm using experience here very lightly, And she makes it clear this isn't the cast's fault. Like if she had a good time, it was because of the effort that they put in. The cast, who, by the way, were all students, because that way Disney could get away with not paying them for an experience that cost people $6,000. 6000. And Jenny actually went on to Disney Cruise website, put in like that number for the newest ship on the Wish, and she's like, oh, you can get like a deluxe suite and all this stuff included for the same price that you're getting for this hotel, where they literally they literally ferry you to the backlots, to this concrete looking, it looks like something from like the Soviet era. It's so depressing looking. And it's supposed to be this experience. Oh, you're in space, you're in Star Cruiser. And of course, none of it works. Jenny said she tried to LARP a little bit because that was supposed to be what the experience was about. And no one really got into it with her because they just didn't know what she was doing. And the storylines her to follow were all mixed up. And there's this great scene where they're supposed to be taking an excursion, a shore side excursion to the planet, was it Batu that's in the sequels? It's supposed to be that desert planet that Rey comes from. It's supposed to be dry and arid. Yeah. And they get there, they get to this excursion, and this is Florida. So of course it's pissing tropical rain because it's Florida and this infamous desert planet. And they're doing this puzzle in the rain where they're supposed to scan crates, literally. Like these games and activities they are given are literally mobile phone games, and this all would be a lot of fun if it was just a hotel and hey, here's this fun stuff included in the hotel, and it's like a third of what it should be. But there's also just this great footage where they're supposed to have this interactive dinner theater moment with this singer Gaia, and I can't remember what race she is, but she sings a song. And the footage from this dinner is all her trapped behind a pillar, all just trying to film the show, this concrete pillar. And then the dancer and singer moves, and she's like, oh, okay, I'll get footage this time. And she goes behind another pillar.
Oh, no.
So this whole experience, and she just meticulously explains like why not only was it a failure, but why it can't be saved. And what it comes down to is Disney was so inflexible with how they built this venue that it cannot be repurposed for anything else, because the dining area, for example, is very small. There's only like 100 rooms, and you can't add on more because of the way it's built. Like it's just, it's all meant to be integrated into the story that they apparently never worked out. And what's getting headlines now is someone who says they worked on the show is like, oh, actually, this video gets everything wrong. It's a very, very obviously written by a corporate person, letter. And they're saying things like, oh, but this is like the first interactive experience, and it's spectacular. And it's like, yeah, this is all stuff that was mentioned in the video, as in, yes, this would be fantastic if it worked, but nothing worked. It all fell apart. And again, $6,000. Like if it's like $1,000 a night, whatever, you're a Disney adult, you do what you want with your money. But come on. And she brought up a good point. People say, oh, whatever, the rich people, haha, screw them. But she saw a lot of middle class families, people who basically went into debt, people who took out their savings to give their kids a good time at Star Wars, and it was kind of a piece of crud. And that's really too bad. And what really is just disgusting and galling is how Disney upsells on this $6,000 experience. Oh, but you pay this to sit at the captain's table. Oh, but you pay that to meet this character. Oh, but you pay this to... And it just goes on and on and on. And you think it's bad in terms of video game DLC? It is like... That looks like bupkis compared to what Disney is doing. I wholly recommend watching the video. It really gives you an idea into the state of Disney's mind right now, which is not a good place. And I'm eager to see what happens from here. I mean, the hotel shut down. It's gone.
Yeah.
Like it's
So she went before it shut down.
She went before it shut down. Yeah, and she points out that Disney shut it down so suddenly that people never had a chance to book and say, "Oh, well, I want to try it now." They just said, oh, it's all gone. You guys didn't play with it, so we're taking your toy away.
I mean, it sounded nightmarish, just the way that it was described. Yeah. I was like, they basically stick you in a room with no windows, and you have mandatory fun, and you're spending how much money on this?
Mandatory fun. And I get it, like she mentioned, like, okay, she loves experiences like that. She loves the dinner theater and, interactive. And if it works, it sounds like it could be a lot of fun. I could understand why people would have a lot of fun with that. But it's like Disney apparently encouraged you to, hey, dress up as your character, and she made up a character for herself, where it was actually a really funny character where she was like a snobbish upper class person from Croissant who was on a cruise and was like, oh, she wanted to be with the First Order. She wanted to go to the First Order storyline because she's like, okay, this is supposed to be a family fun experience where, quote unquote, nobody loses. So how are they going to do this? So her whole shtick was, oh, I'm so-and-so, I'm a rich influencer from Croissant. Oh, what if these rebels screw up my vacation? No, that would be terrible. And I thought that was a lot of fun, but she couldn't go with a bit because no one knew how to play along with it. And so if she had been able to pull that off, and the other characters were like, oh yeah, like the First Order officers being like, oh god, these rebels, ugh, that would have been great. I could understand why that would be a lot of fun. Maybe not $6,000 worth of fun, but at least not like just sitting and looking around saying, what am I supposed to do in this dismal concrete hotel, which yes has no windows except for the viewing windows, quote unquote, into space, quote unquote, which are very small and up near the ceiling. So have fun with that.
Yeah, I want to go watch that video because it's been all over my feeds, and she's been trending multiple times this week. And I like a good 4-hour video about Star Wars hotels
I like
that are
video
horrible.
essays. Yeah, you'll like it. I'm sure you will.
Oh, I think I will. I'm waiting for the next Tim Rogers I'm waiting for the next Tim Rogers review to drop someday.
Yeah,
in the future.
When I said 4 hours, people were like, laughs in Tim Rogers.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I don't watch YouTube videos that are shorter than 3 hours, so this is all totally fine for me.
No, absolutely. So it's a good antithesis to this world of TikToks and fast things.
Yeah,
that's how good my vocabulary
either
is.
your short form video or your 4 hours long. So
yeah, min-max.
That's the
Get
only
all the
thing the
stats
algorithm likes anymore.
All hell,
the state of Star Wars breaks my heart, though. It is just tough. There's just it's heartbreaking. I feel like Kat and I have talked about Star Wars before, and it's just a big bummer. Just everything, basically everything that's happened in the last 10 years.
It's also worth pointing out that, again, $6,000, and you are only getting characters from the sequels and worlds from the sequels. And I think it was actually
everybody loves the sequel trilogy.
Friend of the podcast, Len, who was like, yeah, if I pay that kind of money and you trot out Kylo Ren instead of Darth Vader, I am booing. And I get it. I love Kylo Ren, actually. I think he was just a destroyed character who had so much potential.
He's a great character, actually, yeah.
But I could understand, like, if you're going to pay that kind of money, you're one of those people who want to see Luke reinserted back into the Mandalorian. So you're going to want those classic eras. And as Jenny brought up, if they had done this properly, they could have made it so that, okay, well, we'll change things up, and now it's a story based in the original universe, and people will come back again and have another reason to come experience the story. But nope. Disney, sorry, but there's profit to be had.
Yeah, I remember when Force Awakens came out, going into that movie theater feeling a little morose because I thought to myself, well, this is it. The time where Star Wars was special and rare, and a Star Wars movie coming out felt like a huge deal, is coming to an end, because we're going to be getting a lot of Star Wars now. And it's been almost 10 years, I think, since Force Awakens came out. Am I right? It came out in like 2015?
It was 2015. Yeah.
Wow.
Wild. Everybody was watching the original trilogy again and soaking up the vibes and going, wow, Star Wars, it's back. And now we're just kind of like, yeah, Star Wars. That's a thing that happened to us.
It's still here. If you want Star Wars, you got it over here. Not in the hotel anymore, though. We made that an unhotel.
All right, that's
it. At least the Jedi games are good. I love the Respawn games. They're awesome.
I
Yeah,
gotta
I've been
play 'em.
meaning to finish Jedi Survivor actually.
Mhm.
I I actually been playing on my PS5. I got PS5 Remote Play onto my Steam Deck, so that I could play
Oh,
13
nice.
Sentinels. And
Nice.
I was looking through my library and I saw that Jedi Survivor was on there. I was like, oh, I gotta finish Jedi Survivor. What if that's not a
Mhm.
game I would play on Remote Play, actually, because it's a you don't want input delay in a game that's as precise as Jedi Survivor, but
Yeah.
the action is really well done and it's a very joyful game. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of Cal Kestis is his
Yeah.
name,
Yeah.
the dorkiest
I like
Jedi.
Cal. Yeah, he is dorky, but I like him.
There are worse Jedi out there, so he's okay.
Yeah. Yes, there
There
are.
are. That truly are.
He's like the definition of an expanded universe Jedi, I have to say, like OG expanded universe.
Mhm.
Oh,
Or
back in the
like
wild days.
yeah. I look forward to when he just randomly shows up in a movie and people are like, "There's Cal Kestis."
Gosh. Yeah.
So what they got to
It'll
do,
definitely
obviously,
happen.
is just make Heir to the Empire a series. The actual sequels are canceled. They're struck from the canon. We're all going Timothy's on, baby.
Let's go.
Mara
Well,
Jade.
here's the things. They started to do that already, sort of, with Ahsoka, because they brought in
That's true.
Thrawn. First of all, Thrawn looks horrible in Ahsoka. Just terrible makeup. The costuming, like the outfit, is ill-fitting. It's not great. And just necessarily, it's not going to be as compelling as the original Heir to the Empire trilogy. So I liked Ahsoka better than most, but Thrawn was definitely the low point of Ahsoka for me, sadly.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Well, I'm really good at compartmentalizing. And the way that I do it is I just go, look, I will always have these works. And I can always go back to them. I can always watch them or enjoy them. And I can always remember the feelings that I had when I was watching this. And just acknowledge that everything, the nature of the universe means that things are probably going to get worse over time. Nothing can stay amazing forever. But I'll always have this. So if you
Yeah,
ever
you have to get healthy about nostalgia.
if you ever feel bad about Star Wars, go watch Empire Strikes Back or something. Or heck, Phantom Menace was in the theaters, and now everybody's nostalgic for that.
I am not
Whatever.
watching Phantom Menace again. I'm sorry.
Neither
About
am I.
time. It's about time the prequels get their deserved love.
Oh
I'm of
God.
that age. I love the prequels. I always have. I'm of
Well, if
that
you're
Logan
that
is
age,
of
I
that
can't really
age.
blame you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you literally grew up
I
with
I
them.
I recognize why people don't like them, but Revenge of the Sith, that movie's great. That one is so good.
I did like that.
Oh no.
Acting was terrible, but
Sorry, Kat.
it had its moments. He had the upper ground, Cat. He had the upper ground. It was over.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know that it's a very passe thing to hate on the prequels, but I'm going to anyway. Anyway. All right, that's it for the tavern. Nadia, take us home.
So again, I asked for suggestions for Nostalgia Nook because that helps me remember stories easier. And Zubatman asked, since it's Memorial Day in the States, congratulations, by the way. We don't have that. Last weekend was Victoria Day. Look out for the canopy drawing of Queen Victoria. Zubatman asked, so what are some road trip stories you have? And I do have several road trip stories. This is a very big continent, and again, I've lived. I live in Canada, but my husband is from North Carolina. We used to go back and forth a lot. But anyway, the road trip story I should probably tell is I told parts of it. When I was 18, I think, I went to the Holocaust Museum in DC, went on a bus with a Jewish youth group. Wasn't really part of them, but I kind of had to be for that trip. The reason I went is because my grandfather was speaking, so I kind of got onto the trip for free. But that was also the trip where we got kicked out of the Supreme Court because we were in DC. I still don't know what happened. All I know is some of the kids in our group are bad, and they got kicked out of the Supreme Court. And man, were the tour leaders mad at us.
Yeah, wow.
But what was really funny is on our way back home, we were still in DC, but we were getting ready to leave, and the bus driver stopped outside of a mall to buy some stuff if anyone wanted some last minute purchases. And here's a fun fact: apparently Oreos at the time in the States were kosher, whereas they weren't kosher in Canada. So everyone kind of swarmed to get these kosher Oreos because apparently Canada was still using lard in them back then. Just fun fact. Anyway, most of the bus emptied. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't really like Oreos that much. And there's this big to-do all of a sudden, and we're all looking out the bus, those of us who are left, and it's the entourage for Bill Clinton. And so this big parade drives past us, like the whole, motorcade. And Bill Clinton, I don't see his face, but I just see an arm waving at everyone from outside the limousine. I can barely see his face smiling. And the kids come back in the bus, and we're like, "We saw Bill Clinton." They're like, "You did not. You're lying." Like, "No, he drove right by. He was waving. It was really great." So yeah, I saw Bill Clinton, and I went home and I told my dad about that, and he's like, "Yeah, that's something he would do, just like smiling and waving to everyone. You won't get presidents doing that anymore."
You just saw the arm?
Just saw the arm, and like you could barely see his face smiling behind the glass.
Okay.
And like,
I was kind of imagining a Secret Service agent holding up a little arm, going doo 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 doo. It's kind of waving
they
it for
attached
everybody.
it to a windshield wiper by the side of the window, and is waving as he goes by. So there you go. I got waved at by Bill Clinton, and my mother got toasted by David Bowie.
Wow.
I told that story already.
It's a very Nadia move to get kicked out of the Supreme Court.
I didn't do anything. I don't know why we got kicked out to this day. Just that I just know we apparently set a very bad example for Canadians and Jews. So that was 2 for 1.
Honestly, I'm here for it. Like, getting kicked out of the Supreme Court is a badge of honor, Nadia.
It's gotta be. I mean, I don't know. Someone was fooling around with something. That's all I know. Someone touched something they weren't supposed to.
Oh.
Hey, is this the Constitution? I can wipe my butt with it.
Stop touching Clarence Thomas.
But he's so wrinkly. When you touch him, he makes a boing sound. Squishy sound. Stop it. We're gonna kick you out. Stop being Canadians.
That's what Canadians do.
We poked Clarence Thompson.
And that's it for this week's episode of Axe of the Blood God. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for the generous support of the podcast. I always do this every single week on Saturday around 9:15 a.m. Pacific, unless we have technical difficulties. But we only had about a 15-minute delay this week, so that was fine.
It's not too bad. We've had worse.
Thanks so much to Logan. Logan, where can we find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. You can find me on Twitter at Logan J. Plant, and I do a Nintendo podcast of my own called Toadstool Boardroom, which you can find on Twitter at ToadstoolBR, and that goes up Thursdays. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, everywhere. And yeah, go check out my Paper Mario review, and hopefully you're going to jump in this weekend because it's a ton of fun.
Excellent. And I guess I'll be seeing you down in LA during IGN Lives. Very exciting.
Yeah, can't wait.
Cannot
It'll be a ton of fun.
wait. We'll be heading into the Axe of the Blood God post show now, where we will be hanging out with all of our pals in the Stars of Destiny tier, who are all generous supporters of us. So yeah, come on down. We'll probably talk more about the Waffle House and whatnot, or maybe Star Wars prequels. I don't know. Who can say? Bill Clinton. Whenever I always go into the post show with an idea, like, I'm going to do this as a topic. And then inevitably we end up somewhere completely random, like toilet humor or something like that. So, the chaos reigns definitely during the Axe of the Blood God post show. A little more chaotic than usual. Nadia and Eric take over. LOL.
We usually do.
But in the meantime, we'll be back next week. I've been your host, Kat Bailey, and for Logan, Nadia, and myself, thanks for listening. Happy adventuring.